you know, the thing that I have learned about at least county government is that a lot can go on behind closed doors. And it shouldn't be that way. It's like bad public policy when things happen like that. And I know there's all kinds of promises. People are going to have everything is open. But if you really are committed to honest government and you're really committed to keep the light shining on what's going on, it can be done. And I am very hopeful that, you know, people that are up at the Capitol now will actually come through on their promises to be very honest about what goes on in government. And I can tell you, I am very committed to having things open so that people know what their government is doing. I see so many things that at county government, how budgets are put together, how decisions are made about, you know, who to fund and who not to fund. It's very motivating for me to run for county executive when I see those kinds of things happening, because I really do believe we can do a lot better in that regard. And just being honest with the public. We don't have to sugarcoat things. We just have to tell people what's really going on and get the feedback from the public about what we should continue doing. And you know, people always talk about special interest groups. Well, everybody's a special interest group. I mean, people have their own motivations for doing things, but there's a way to establish a cost-benefit analysis of the things that government does. Some of the costs and benefits are not measurable in dollars, they're measurable in public good, but you still need to approach it with a, you know, in a reasonable way, in a more objective way than what we're doing right now.
I've got more if nobody
But one of my concerns, and I think a concern of a lot of people, is just that Madison is to a large extent a government town. It relies on government funds, both from the state government and the federal government, and we know going forward that the state government's going to be tightening its belt and the federal government's going to be tightening its belt. So that means less funds coming into Madison, which is going to impact the local economy. I'm just wondering what sort of ideas you have for fostering economic development to kind of counter that and leading to a more diversified sort of economic base.
You know, I know one of my opponents keeps saying this is all about jobs. Well, you know, you can recruit all of the companies you want, but if they get here and they can't get a conditional use permit or they can't get the zoning to do what they want to do to create jobs, that's one thing. We also have to recognize that there are a lot of economic development professionals in this area. University Extension has economic development people. You know, I was kind of tabulating this in my head today. Where else? Most of the cities and villages have someone that is responsible for economic development. Some of the big companies like Madison Gas and Electric, they have their own economic development team. And when I've spoken with people about what is it going to take to create jobs, generally speaking, the response is we need to be able to work with government. Right now, we're marginalized. We're kind of, they don't like people who make a profit in their business. And you know, a business can't survive unless it's profitable. So this is, I think what's going to happen is there needs to be kind of a wholesale change in how we look at the business community. Most of the businesses I know, they're very ethical, they want to do the right thing, they want to provide good customer service, and they need to make a profit so that they can continue to exist. All of the counties surrounding Dane County have put together these economic development corporations where you do have both government and the private sector equal partners in promoting economic development and using the resources of both, and both sides, public and private. But we don't have that in Dane County, and we do need an executive who sees that as something valuable and to be promoted. And that's something coming out of the private sector. I really appreciate the difference between just working with government bureaucrats who really don't understand what business is. They really don't. You need business people there who are used to doing pro formas, that because government generally doesn't do those kinds of things. So that's one of the ways I think it needs to be done. The university has, for example, the university research park that they're going to open on the far west side, County M, that part of County M. I know Mark Buer went to the current county executive and said, look, we have hundreds of jobs that we can recruit into this area, but we can't support that level of economic activity with just this 2-lane road. We need a wider road so that people and customers and clients and deliveries. And the county executive said, why would I want to do that? I mean, she doesn't want to see that kind of economic development and that kind of activity. But now we have an opportunity to sort of work with the university again and do the things that are necessary to just to make a more welcoming atmosphere. I know Scott Walker has his sign, Wisconsin is open for business. We need something like that that says Dane County is open for business. And as the county executive, while the main job is making sure the budgets are right and all of the laws are being followed and all of that, the county executive does have a role in facilitating that kind of activity between business or the private sector and the public sector.
Eileen, we were talking about, we've been talking about regulation in a number of respects. Are there particular regulations that you see as egregious or onerous that you would want to get rid of right away?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I'd like to see happen is a total rewrite of the zoning ordinance, the county zoning ordinance. It is archaic. It's difficult to follow. It should be updated. And through that process of updating rewriting the zoning code or updating it, towns would have the option of opting out of county zoning. And this is especially important for urbanizing towns, which do have more development going on. As long as the county has something to say about their zoning, they pretty much have handcuffs on, because the county can just say nope to that. There have been a growing number of situations where, and I can tell you about Westport and Waunakee because I'm most familiar with that one. Waunakee has an extraterritorial zoning powers. The town of Westport has to go to the county for their zoning decisions. What Westport and Waunakee decided to do was to write an intergovernmental agreement so that the Waunakee extraterritorial zoning could extend all the way through the town of Westport. So that's one of the ways that they're doing this. Now Westport has to go to Waunakee for their, for zoning issues, for zoning matters. And it's worked out well, but it's really been a very circuitous route to get that kind of independence so that Westport can grow the way Westport wants to grow. And you know, these municipalities in 2000, when I first got elected, the smart growth law, the comprehensive planning law went into effect, and that required each municipality to, well, they didn't have to write a plan, but most have. And they've decided, talking to the people that live in their communities, how they want things to shape up. Some towns have said, we don't want to see any development, we're a rural area, we want to stay that way, we like it this way. Okay, that's fine. But you have towns like Westport, which is, you know, in the first collar, the first ring around Madison, that has wanted to develop in certain areas. They've also identified areas that they want to see, you know, natural resource areas and so on. So as long as the owner of the land is okay with all of this and the zoning, let's give the locals more control over their own destiny. They've written up their plans. Let's move on with it, and without having the county deciding that there should be transfer of development rights and there should be all of these other things that are known to, you know, known to drive up the cost of land and make it much more difficult for, especially for farmers.
You were in charge of the Dane County Health Service things. Just what does that include?
Okay, the county is structured so that we have these standing committees, and the executive writes the budget, and then the legislative branch of government, we are divided up into a certain set of committees. There's public protection and judiciary. There's the jail, the sheriff's department, the courts are part of all of that. Then we have health and human needs, which is basically covers, you know, foster care, long-term care for the elderly and disabled, children in need of protective services. So all of those kinds of, the job center, those kinds of things, human services. There's a Transportation and Public Works Committee, which oversees county roads, the landfill, those, you know, any of the buildings that the county occupies. We've got the Zoning and Land Regulation Committee, which is the committee I currently sit on, which makes those decisions over the towns. It's supposed to be an equal partnership, but it turns out that the county has a very heavy hand in some of these decisions. And then the last committee is the ENER Committee, Environmental, Ag, and Natural Resources Committee. There was a time when zoning and ENER were together, but over every 2 years, before the next county board is elected, the current county board can pass by simple majority a change to the committees. And so there was not a change I wanted to see, but the zoning and ENER committee became two separate committees. I think that's, and then of course there's an executive committee that just handles like agendas and takes on certain, reapportionment is coming up. Right now, when I first got elected, I went through the first round of, that was my first round of, it was the first major issue that I as a county supervisor had to face, and it's a very complex issue and very politically charged. So right now they're putting together a committee of supervisors to do the redistricting, and I suggested actually taking a page from the playbook of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. They're having the judges do this, and you know, I think we would get a better shake right now if we had judges doing it, retired judges versus progressive Dane. So I don't know where that's going to go just yet. We're going to be looking at on Thursday night, as a matter of fact. It will be going before the executive committee. There is some value in having someone that's sort of third party, maybe a little more dispassionate about the issue to make decisions, because right now there is some great concern that the supervisors in the outer areas, in the rural and more suburban areas of the county, there will be fewer supervisors, and those supervisors will not survive redistricting. So it's a big issue for us. It's, you know, it's one of those things that most people don't care about, but it's very, very important about how this all shakes out. And so we'll see. I have fought hard. There was an effort to reduce the size of the county board in 2006, and I introduced a resolution, the substitute. Supervisor DeFelice introduced we should reduce the county board down to 19 members, and I introduced a substitute that said we shall not do anything to the number of county board supervisors that we have. We should keep them just the way we are. And actually I prevailed on that one too. It was again a 30, what was it? It was 36 to 1. So because it's better to have more supervisors that are citizen representatives. We're not professional politicians. We come at this from all different walks of life. If we have 12 or 13,000 constituents, it's very likely we can meet a lot of them, or most of them, if you really try hard and knock on all the doors. A smaller county board would increase the size of our committees, and pretty soon you need retirement funds for them, and special parking spaces, and staff, and then it becomes Milwaukee. So when we don't want that.
You seem to have a very keen eye and a very broad view of the administration, the county administration. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the efficiency, the level of efficiency that you see in terms of the administration as it currently exists. Mm-hmm. What is the state of things now, and what would you do to introduce what you might see as greater efficiency mm-hmm. within the administration?
Yeah, you know, each administration, the county executive really sets the tone for what's going on. And after talking to so many people that are on staff at the county, people are not really comfortable or encouraged to come forward with ideas to be more efficient. I've spoken with a number of judges who have said, you know, if you come up with a great idea to save money, you will get punished in the budget the next time, because, and it's also very political. Everyone wants to take credit for, you know, anything that happens that might have some political purview. So there are ways. I think a lot of the frontline staff in the county really could help us if they had an atmosphere, a climate in which to share good ideas. It just hasn't been there. So that's one of the things that I think really has to happen, just changing the mood of what goes on in county government. I think, you know, this whole idea of writing the budget with the idea of and analyzing each part of the budget. Right now we see an incremental budget. We see last year's budget and what's going to change for this next year. So you really don't have a very good idea of what the base budget is about, because the base budget is just what happened last year. We don't know if it was good, bad, you know. Maybe we need more, maybe we need less. So I probably put together a team to evaluate, to write the budget starting from zero, a zero-based budget. So you start at the very bottom. How much do you need for pencils and erasers in that department to get you through, and then what else do you need, and what else do you need? So you can build a budget rather than just assuming everything is going on efficiently. Because again, there's no evaluation. The area in the purchase of services for human services, the county doesn't actually hire staff to, oh, in some cases it does, but most, if you've got people with mental health issues, they hire an agency to actually deliver the services. Those are the services that are not being evaluated. You can say you have so many units of service have been given, but what is the quality of it? Who are you serving? Do we need to serve everyone, or should we be serving other people, different people? We just don't know. And those are the kinds of things that I think you can become much more efficient. You know, people talk about having smaller government. This is one way that you do it, is by taking it piece by piece and building a budget and building an operation that works well.